you talking about flailing a little bit, there's an aspect of training and motor learning. So that's kind of the process of learning movement patterns. It talks about random practice, which essentially says if we're doing a set of regimented exercises, doing them in the same order every time actually is not as helpful for learning all of those movements as shifting the pattern every time. So if you were to say do push-ups, pull-ups, pull-ups, chin-ups back to back, switch it up one day and go pull-ups, push-ups, chin-ups, switch it up and go pull-ups, push-ups, chin-ups, like alternated around. And by doing those shifts and those changes, it actually trains the brain to recognize the different ways in which we can move between these patterns. So if we're struggling with a movement initially, often it's good to mix it into a different environment, but also take time in that movement and play with kind of the in-betweens all the time. In yoga practice, at least the way I've practiced and the way I was trained is always to give these kind of variations and options and allow people to explore in the spaces that they have difficulty. Because ultimately, the thing that will be the most useful for a person's individual body will be the thing that they find the most effective for that movement. And in finding those things that work for them, they can then begin to blend into a place where they can assume a form that is more reflective of whatever practice they're doing. So for some people, for chin-ups, they may flail around or try to get to the top. They may not even be able to. They may have to use a chair and get all the way to the top of the bar. And then, as you said, eccentric control all the way down. Ultimately, that's going to be as useful, if not more useful for someone who is in that space than someone who's starting at full length and not even able to get into any in-between ranges, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a fun balance in between more than anything.
I know that a lot of people really like the idea of having perfect form, and I've found that actually avoiding perfect form is more beneficial for me because then I'm training in a range of motion that's more realistic for my actual life. So as a volleyball player, you land in a lot of different ways and people tend to get injured a lot, I think, because they're not practicing landing out of control. And a lot of exercises are in control. You're harped on to be in control all the time. That's dogma. You have to be in control, perfect form. And you can totally notice when people do have perfect form, it's beautiful.
Oh, it's
but then when you watch people play sports, it's very chaotic. You're out of control a lot of the time. And so I think that's something that's becoming less dogmatic in at least high level athleticism, is being in perfect control all the time. You want to train your muscles to be a little bit out of control or to handle the moments where you are out of control.
And that's that idea of random practice. I agree. Perfect form is such a weird principle because ultimately everyone's bodies are so different and so functionally different that to say that you have to have a specific posture or a specific element of movement isn't really evidence anymore. Even like seated in a chair for good posture, sitting in front of a computer or at a desk, right? We always assign, 90, 90, 90, make sure your eyes are level with the screen or within a certain range, have your hands at elbows at 90, roughly wrists or slight flexion, et cetera, et cetera. No one sits that
I feel
way.
personally attacked.
I know, I'm sorry, I'm assaulting you. I'm in the same boat. I'm in a chair with no back right now, so I'm slouching, sitting up. But ultimately, the thing that's the most important is that we don't maintain any posture for a very significant sustained amount of time. By having that little bit of that equilibrium or that ability to move through these different shapes and different spaces, it actually protects or maintains our bodies such that we don't have these sustained position injuries that occur. So someone working at a desk, for instance, like I am right now with my job presently, if I'm sitting like this, sloped over, head forward, like uncomfortable the whole time, for an hour and a half, my body is going to hate me, right? Ultimately, you're causing a stretch to all of the capsular structures and ligamentous structures around your spine. You're putting your head into deep extension. It's a lot of positions that we usually, in our normal day-to-day that would be typical, don't hold for those periods of time. So taking that moment of self-awareness to going, okay, how am I sitting? And just adjusting for a couple minutes, maybe standing up, doing a little loop around the room, anything that allows you to kind of create that dynamic movement again and keeping you out of one still position for a period of time is the most important component of wellness in general, really, right? Sedimentation is the thing that tends to ruin our bodies or cause our bodies to change significantly.